What's up, guys, and welcome back to another podcast. It is episode number 7 of the F1 QuizCast, and I actually had to have a look to see how many episodes we've done. That's how long ago the last one was. I think it was 2 months ago, just over 2 months ago when we interviewed Arav. Today it's just the two of us. It is just myself and Matt. So, yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, Matt? How are you doing now?
I'm doing alright actually. Obviously life has taken over quite considerably for both of us recently, so I haven't really had the time, and I suppose a lot of you want to hear why I've been kind of vanished off the face of the earth over the last couple of months. I haven't really been on Twitter, on YouTube, not really anywhere. It's a mystery. So
yeah, so we'll cover that sort of thing, you know, where we've been in terms of YouTube, and then we haven't really got any sort of structure to this, so
yeah,
we'll
just see
probably,
where it goes.
Yeah, we'll talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the F1 game, our opinions on, you know, what we think of the game. You know, what little we've heard. I've played a bit of the beta as well, so we'll just sort of touch on that, and also a bit of real life F1. So yeah, in terms of real life F1, if you guys could leave a comment down below, maybe you know, what you thought of the Canadian Grand Prix. And in terms of the F1 game, what you guys are most excited about in terms of that. So yeah, leave those comments down below, and yeah, hopefully we can entertain you for the next 45 minutes or so, or however long it does take. So yeah, as you said, Matt, sort of life, I guess, has taken its toll on both of us to an extent. Yeah. Yeah, you know, what's been happening in terms of YouTube and life recently?
Well, YouTube, unfortunately, I've got to the point where I literally just don't have the time or the commitment to really make good quality videos. Like, I could probably force one video out, but it would just be completely crap. I think the timing issue is unfortunate because at the moment I'm currently in work and my schedule is the same every single week, so I don't get any free time at a certain part of the year, because I know a lot of YouTubers at the moment have just finished college, school, exams. Now they get loads of free time. For me, I just don't get that. It's the same structure every single week, and that doesn't change. And in terms of the commitment, it's honestly just down to the fact that I just don't enjoy playing F1 2016 or any F1 game. Yeah. I think I've just burnt myself out. I think that's literally it, because I've edited to such a high quality, I say, and I spend so long editing videos, and it has literally bored me to death now. And even thinking about making an F1 video, it's a chore now. That's literally it.
Yeah, I think we definitely touched on this. We definitely touched on this in the podcast with Arav, didn't we? I mean, the fact that a lot of people have sort of got to that stage now. And yeah, I think a lot of us are sort of getting to that sort of age where, you know, as we said, just life takes over. So you mentioned, like, you don't really enjoy playing the F1 games. Is there any particular reason behind that?
I think it's just, the trouble is, it's the video making aspect that I don't like, because what I'm planning on doing when F1 2017 comes out, and now I'm not so sure where my YouTube future lies as such, because at the moment I'm not giving up, I'm not quitting, but I'm not taking a break, but I'm not sure when I'm going to upload again. So it's all a bit up in the air at the moment. I'm still sort of in two minds. When F1 2017 comes out, I'm not going to upload videos. I'm just going to try and sort of rediscover my passion for video, well, for mainly playing the F1 game.
Just the game, yeah.
Even, the only bad thing about that is that it will destroy my channel. I've already kind of accepted that the growth on my channel, it's not going to really increase much anytime soon. In F1 2017, it's not going to improve, because, to be honest with you, back in the day of 2014, like just after I finished my GCSEs, that's when I started giving YouTube a proper good go, and I was uploading so many different games. I was uploading F1 2013, it was at the time, FIFA 14, GTA, and just a load of random games. I was enjoying it so much, and that was because there was no expectation, because I only had about 200 subscribers, so the views to me didn't really matter. And I think the trouble is, as my channel sort of blew up when F1 2015 came out, I became a little bit view obsessed, so I tended to check every single video. And when a video didn't do so well, it really lowered my motivation. And that's the stage I've got to now. It's just, honestly, just a lack of time, a lack of commitment, and just really not enjoying playing F1. But I just want to try, if possible, just to rediscover that passion, and maybe I'll come back eventually. But don't know about the timing, really. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think F1 2017, it's... I don't know about myself, but obviously for you, like you say, you just want to sort of play the game.
Yeah,
you know,
I think I'm going to change my approach this year, because I know lots of other people have done that in the past. I'm not going to throw videos out straight away because I just want to enjoy the game first, and maybe then after that I will upload videos just for the fun of it, because that's what I want YouTube to be for me. Even though it's great to gain subscribers and everything like that, to be honest, as I mentioned, I enjoyed YouTube a lot more when there was no expectation, when there were no, as silly as it sounds, when there was no subscribers around. I enjoyed it a lot more, and that's not anything against my current subscribers. You know, having the support on videos is really good to see, but when the video doesn't do so well, it is really difficult to kind of pick yourself back up again.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What I'm aiming... Sorry, I don't know, we were interrupting each other like... But no, what I'm aiming to do is just rediscover my passion, rediscover my love for F1 games, and hopefully from there on in I can kind of just kick-start again, but I know it's going to be tough, and it's not going to really be much growth going on my channel, I don't think, but I just have to accept that, and I don't mind.
Yeah, I think with the release this year, it's going to be interesting to sort of see what approaches people take. Obviously, yourself, you know, you're just going to sort of play the game and enjoy it. And you know, in terms of YouTube, because for myself, you know, this summer don't really have any sort of commitments, especially when, you know, the game comes out late August. I think after that it's like a month before I go back to uni. So like for myself, it's probably going to be quite good. Whereas usually, you know, a late August release, it's sort of like the last week of summer holidays for college and school. Whereas for me, you know, I've just sort of got that month afterwards to sort of enjoy the game, have plenty of time, and yeah, be sort of interesting to see that sort of the direction that I take the channel. Myself as well, I think I'm just going to, you know, try and enjoy the game, because I think F1 2015 for me was the main one, where it was release day and it was like, right, I've got to play the game, you know, I've got to get used to it as soon as possible, and I've got to, you know, get a video out as soon as possible. And that just made me not enjoy the game. It was like I was rushing to try and sort of get races finished and whatever. And then F1 2016 was one after that. I had really low expectations for that game because, you know, F1 2015 disappointed so much. And I just didn't really have any motivation to play the game. I remember on release day, I think I was out that night, like, and I got back at like 4 AM and I was like, don't really care about the game, and, you know, didn't even play it until like the next day. So yeah, this year I don't know. I have no real expectations myself, but yeah, like I say, I just guess we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, F1 2017 is certainly going to be an interesting one. I don't like to repeat myself, and hopefully we're not becoming too repetitive with these podcasts, but it is seriously make or break, like big time this year, because for a lot of people, I think it's kind of going to be a stage where a lot of us either stay or go, pretty much. That's going to be the pattern this year, because a lot of us get to the stage in life now where, you know, real life is beginning to take priority. As I said, for me, I've got a job at the moment. That's what is happening in the short term anyway. And as I said, the structure doesn't change. I'm in that job all the time. For me, getting more free time to record videos just isn't going to happen. I think it's going to be the same for a lot of other people as well. Yeah. You know, possibly you could see, you know, there might be people 4 or 5 years younger than ourselves, Joe, that could be starting up channels now. Maybe they'll sort of take our places almost. But I suppose we'll have to wait and see. But in terms of F1 2017, as we're currently recording, we haven't heard all that much in terms of news. We've heard a bit about the classic cars that are going to be reintroduced. Now, they seem to be using that as the main selling point. F1 2017 make history, I think it is. But
yeah.
I'm not so sure about that. I don't know what your opinions are, Joe, but considering it went so dead early on in F1 2013, I understand they've tried to integrate it more into like the core part of the game, but I still don't see how they can make it that more enjoyable and sort of increase the longevity of that game mode. Yeah,
I'm not completely sold on it yet. I mean, as you said, in F1 2013, it sort of went dead pretty early. Obviously, people, you know, to start with, really enjoyed playing with the classic cars and whatnot. But yeah, I think until they really get the license for, you know, a time period within sort of 2 or 3 seasons of each other, which is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Then it's always going to be difficult to sort of integrate that. I mean, obviously in the last week we've heard FIFA have announced these new icons for FIFA 18, and with football it is completely different. You can sort of integrate that into the modern day. Footballers don't change. They're always human beings as such, and to an extent. You can put any footballer in any footballing era, whereas in F1 it's very different. The cars are very, very different. You're never going to have a complete balance between eras. So far we've had announced the 1988 McLaren all the way up to the 2010 Red Bull. So in between that you've had so many different F1 eras as such. And you're never going to be able to race them against each other. And like you said, Matt, they've tried to integrate it into career mode. So
yeah, that's what I was going to come on to actually.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? How they tried to do that?
I am glad that they are starting to move away from the one-dimensional aspect of career mode, where it's literally the same setting all the time. I'm glad it's kind of like Forza, where you have your season, then you move on into like a different series, like one-off race. But what I hope with it's not where you're just literally placed into a car and you drive around for 3 laps and that's it. I just hope there's a little bit more depth to it than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get
so maybe like, I know it's a big ask, but maybe like a cutscene beforehand.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Something along those lines, because I just want it to be a little bit more inspiring than just driving around the track for a few laps. But I am glad. I think Codemasters are definitely taking it in the right direction, and what Arav said in the last podcast was very promising. I mean, I didn't really react at the time when he was saying this, but actually a lot of the stuff he said about, or he hinted about for career mode, was pretty intriguing actually in the last podcast, sort of saying that with career mode, if the vanilla career that people start off with dies off, it won't be such a problem this year. So to me, that indicates that there is some form of customization. For me, it did definitely scream driver transfers, but I don't know how they've managed to sort out the licensing for that. I very much doubt they have, but it's something along those lines which they've definitely tried. I think they're definitely trying to fight a little bit more against FOM to get these licensing issues kind of sorted so they can, sort of add more depth to the game and into the career mode. But certainly, I'm interested to see what they've done in terms of increasing the longevity, because that's what Arav kind of alluded to in the last podcast. So I'm just looking forward to some news really, and as we're recording this on the 13th of June, still haven't heard anything yet regarding career mode. And Arav himself said, in a tweet, that the career mode news is really what people should be hyped up for. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. So, but I think in terms of the classic standalone events, again, a good idea, but I just hope there's a bit more depth to them. I don't think the YouTubers actually tried them out in the beta, so I don't think they were even part of the career mode at that point, which is a bit strange. But, just as I said, I want them to be more inspiring than just driving around the track, pretty much.
Yeah, even if there's some sort of, like, challenge aspect to it, where you have to meet some sort of requirements. And as you say, I'd love to see some sort of cutscene beforehand.
Yeah, that would be good.
So say you're going to Silverstone to like, have a test day. If you put in, like, let's say you're in a Williams, you put in that sort of scenario where, like, obviously a couple of weeks ago, Williams had the 40 years of racing thing at Silverstone. So, say you're driving into the track, you're in the pit lane, you've got all these fans there. And by doing that event, you maybe increase your fan base or something like that. Yeah. And, possibly in career mode, you have a social media aspect integrated into it.
That's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah, like Project Cars has, something like that. And by going to these events, it increases your exposure and stuff like that. It's just these little things that sort of add up. And, it just sort of makes you feel more immersed in the career mode. Now, that's what people have just been asking for years now. So, yeah, I don't know. As you said, Arav mentioned something about, career mode being sort of the most interesting news. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to see about that one. But, are there any other things that you'd like to see maybe involved in the new game, Matt, at all?
Not anything that I can think of specifically. I think possibly with the online, bring back the ranking system like they had in F1 2012, because that just gave people a huge incentive to play online. And I was on sprint mode every day, every single day, because
I loved it. Yeah.
It was so much fun back in the day. Like on F1 2012, I always used to race in Athlete VG's live streams, but even just outside of those, I just raced on. I think F1 2012 was probably the game I played the most, or it might have been F1 2013. It was one of those two games.
Yeah, 2013 was one I played the most, I'd say.
But it is really disappointing how Codemasters have kind of dropped back a little bit with the online, certainly. Yeah, they are. But getting rid of the ranking system for me was a really bad idea, and hopefully with some of the feedback that the YouTubers gave last year when they were testing F1 2016, hopefully that was one of the things that was put forward and they have re-implemented for this game. But I don't know when we'll hear about that. Hopefully sometime soon. But
yeah.
Other than the online... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just like, while you were on that point, it sort of ties into something that I was reading and I actually wanted to bring up in this podcast.
Go on.
Now, one thing that Codemasters have revealed is there's going to be a new gameplay mode called Championships. And
I did believe that.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned just after the numerous multiplayer enhancements. Now,
Right.
it could just be complete coincidence, but one thing I'd maybe thought of that it could involve is that maybe that is the ranking system coming back in maybe some sort of championship form.
It better be, please. Please.
I hope that it sort of ties into possibly divisions in FIFA. You know, maybe you start off in the lowest division.
You know
and
what?
Then you sort of rank up, and that sort of determines who you come up against online. Now, obviously, F1 online doesn't tend to have a lot of people, but I think that is mainly down to the fact that it's just not really an inspiring thing to play. So if they do add something like that and really sort of hype it up, then hopefully that'll really get the online, community, up for it, because that is something which I would absolutely love to play on, even just like 5-lap races. Because it really, like you said before, Matt, it just gives people an incentive to actually go online and sort of rank up and be the best, really.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing I'd want added into the game, not anything specific, but I think like Arav alluded to in the last podcast, was more off-the-cuff game modes which would sort of attract the casual player, because I think the trouble is, at the moment with F1 games, as silly as it sounds, once again, it is... Well, basically, it's what F1 is. They need to move away from what F1 is in order to attract, a bigger fan base. Just create... I don't know what specifically, but maybe, like the Last Man Standing Challenge, maybe create a specific game mode for that purpose, even though it's not related to, Formula 1 and the Grand Prix and everything. But it's still something fun to do, because there's just not enough at the moment. There's not enough depth in the Formula 1 game, and hopefully with attracting more casual players, those off-the-cuff game modes will hopefully create more video ideas as well for us to do, so it will help out the YouTubers, and it will also help increase their audience,
their exposure.
Exactly.
I hope this is where Liberty Media sort of come into things, because
hell,
you mentioned about it, having more off-the-cuff game modes. I think the problem that Codemasters have really had is that FOM have really made them stick to the F1. This is the official F1 game. You must only do things that are completely related to F1.
Yeah, it's so boring.
I know, exactly. But obviously, we've seen Liberty Media come in, and even at the weekend at the Canadian Grand Prix, they had that raft race.
I see that. Yes, I saw that.
Just stuff like that. It's obviously not related to F1 at all. But it's just something that's a bit of fun, and hopefully they can be a little bit more lenient on what Codemasters add, and they can be like, add a load of fun game modes that gets us exposure, gets casual people to play the game. I hope they can, even if it isn't this year, just that's hopefully where the future of the F1 games are going.
Yeah.
I'm going to relate it once again back to FIFA. The squad building challenges that they've added this year have really sort of motivated people to play Ultimate Team. If you don't know what they are, then the squad building challenges basically are you have to exchange a load of players and you get a reward at the end of it. So whether it be another pack or a special player that you can only obtain from doing that. Just an F1 challenge that, if you complete it, then you maybe get some sort of reward in career mode, or, some sort of R&D boost. Something like that. It'll just motivate people to play that, and it's all about, getting people to play the game more, which rewards them in the game. That's why people are going to come back and play it at the end of the day.
Exactly, but I think obviously Codemasters, from what we've heard, they seem to be taking it in the right direction, which is really positive to see. You know, what I want with career mode, I mean, I suppose you can compare it to FIFA again. I know FIFA, more FIFA references. I think at the F1 game, you could argue the community as well is about 8 to 9 years behind FIFA. Something 100%. Along those lines, because I mean, FIFA have only just introduced their own story mode. I think how long it will take Codemasters and Formula 1 to introduce that. That would be incredible. But I think for something like a story mode to be introduced, I don't think Codemasters, unfortunately, I just don't think they're the company to do that. So if it does get to the point where Codemasters can't really progress the F1 game further, I mean, to be honest, I personally think they can, because there's so much they can do now. I think they had ideas in the past, but as you mentioned earlier, Joe, with FOM, with Bernie Eccleston, people like that, preventing all these really fun, cool ideas from happening. I think Codemasters had these ideas in the pipeline for so long, but now with Liberty Media, a company willing to sort of interact with, you know, games companies like Codemasters and try and attract to more of a younger audience, this should hopefully really improve the future of F1 games. And I honestly think this is huge, and it's kind of a shame, really, that you know, I started YouTube 3 years earlier when the F1 games are kind of just a bit samey, a bit repetitive year on year.
They were sort of plateauing. Yeah.
I mean, if I was born like 5 or 6 years later, I reckon I'd be on 100,000 subscribers easily with F1. But you know, it's not easy. But I suppose on the YouTube side of it, again, it's really difficult at the moment to see anyone else hitting 100,000 subscribers. I know I've mentioned this before loads of times, but it's really tough because I think, isn't it Into the Barrier that's now the third biggest?
Yeah, he is.
I think if sprint mode becomes more of a sort of a prominent feature in F1 2017, then his channel might grow again. But I've kind of noticed his channel's not really progressing as much as it once was.
It's difficult at this time of year as well, isn't it?
And to be honest, even with F1 20, even when the new game comes out, I still think it'll be tough for people to get to that level. I mean, you see a lot of people at the moment sort of complaining that there's no real sort of growth on their channel, and I think even when F1 2017 comes out, I don't think there'll be any significant growth on people's channels. I mean, I really hope I'm proven wrong, and by no means is this why I'm deciding not to upload, because I think there's going to be no growth. I mean, I've mentioned before, it's about time, commitment, and just enjoyment. But, you know, I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope people can sort of achieve their goals for this year. But really, it's going to be very, very tough. And F1 2017, I think, as I mentioned, in a few years' time, with all these really cool new ideas hopefully being implemented, YouTube will become so much easier with regards to F1.
Yeah, I do hope so. I do hope so. Yeah, you mentioned about sprint mode there. I mean, like, I'm hoping that I'm correct on the championships, and that is related.
You know,
I hope
that's a good point.
I just hope it's related to online in some sense, and it does actually sort of invigorate online again, because, you know, that is where I personally am thinking of possibly taking my channel in the future, is more towards online, sort of try and get away a little bit from career mode.
Funny moments.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, because the challenges sort of do so well. If you can take that online, I think that sort of takes it up a notch. But yeah, we'll have to see on that front.
I have literally just thought of something, because for me, the thing that I enjoy most about recording YouTube videos in general is making funny moments videos, like that that online Last Man Standing video we did, Joe. I absolutely loved editing and recording that. I mean, it was incredible, even though I got blocked by the guy who I crashed into in the end, which was quite funny. But I mean, that video went down quite badly, but I think that was due to other things like sub boxes, whatever. But
it was just completely broken that day. It was like the other day when I uploaded. It's just one of those things with YouTube.
For me, the videos that I enjoy recording the most are GTA. It honestly is. I mean, that game, it's completely dead. There's no more people that are willing to watch GTA 5 funny moments, really. No. But the thing is, I enjoy editing, recording those videos so much that I upload them onto my second channel, which has about 360 subscribers.
Cheeky plug.
It literally, I know exactly. Go on, subscribe, link description. But no, literally those videos I upload and I have no expectations. It's almost like if I even get 30 views, for crying out loud, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not even going to be too worried, because it literally is just a channel where I upload games for fun. And I feel that's where if I'm going to continue YouTube in the long term, that's where I'm going to need to take my channel, because career mode, I'm just not enjoying it anymore. I think I personally maximise sort of everything I can do with the editing side of things. I mean, I can pop. Yeah, exactly. But I think for the future of my channel, I think funny moment videos. Honestly, I just love making this. I love sort of you know, using different music, using sound effects, using different transitions, just sort of using, you know, just a variety of things to sort of make a really nice sort of edited production. You know, F1 funny moments video. I just want to sort of do things like that. I think if I am going to come back, it will be doing those sort of videos for sure.
Yeah, and I just hope that the game can sort of allow for just a bit of fun to be had, to be honest, because
yeah,
I think it's become very serious in the sense that it's just like sort of career mode or bust, really. Obviously, you can, you know, do the challenge videos and whatever in terms of YouTube, but in terms of just like enjoying the game full stop, it's very difficult unless you're sort of playing with your mates online. And even then, you know, you're not going to get like a massive lobby, especially at this time of year. But no, I mean, yeah, we'll have to see on that front. I mean, is there anything else that you can really take from the game at the moment?
I mean, well, honestly, I mean, personally, I don't know if you could tell by the intro, but I didn't receive a beta code, so I don't know what the game's bloody well like at all. But
I did get the beta. I mean, I don't think we're really allowed to talk that much about it.
Well, to be fair, you did say the handling was pretty awesome.
Yes, that's one thing. I will just quickly touch on the handling. The handling, I'd say, if I could sort of compare it to a previous F1 game, I'd say it's sort of like F1 2013 on steroids.
Oh, Jesus.
That sort of thing. Obviously, it's a quick version.
Jesus.
But like, I've only driven it on the controller at the moment. I haven't driven it on the wheel. And I tend to be a wheel user, but I played F1 2013. I think only latterly did I play that game on the wheel. So for the most part, when I league raced on it, I played on the pad. And for me, on the pad, that is the most enjoyable game, is F1 2013. So all I can go off at the moment is saying that it's a slightly better version of F1 2013 handling. I've played F1 2015 and 2016 on the pad. And honestly, I rage so much with it, just because it's so annoying. You know, you sort of slightly put the throttle down, and all of a sudden, you know, the back end steps out. So.
Oh, so if they fix that, I am gonna freaking love this game, because that is the one thing that peed me off so much in that game. Like, I tried my absolute hardest not to wheel spin out of a corner every time. People probably saw in my career mode videos, twitching literally through every single bloody corner. It's annoying, but thankfully it sounds like they've sorted it. So
yeah, hopefully. Obviously, the cars in 2017 do handle a lot differently, and I think I said this about a year ago when they sort of confirmed the 2017 regulations. I said, you know what, for the game that's going to be really, really good, because I hate the way that these 2016 15 cars handle. So yeah, it's looking promising in terms of handling. There's not really too much else I can say about the game, because it was literally like the first beta, which is now closed, was literally just a time trial.
Oh wow.
It was in 2016. So yeah, I haven't raced against any sort of AI, so can't really say anything about that at the moment. But yeah, early stages looking pretty promising. But there really isn't anything else that we can say in terms of the classic. Sorry, in terms of the 2017 game. I was just looking at the classic content. Obviously, there's some new layouts. So you're going to be able to, I guess, race on shorter configurations. But
oh yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah. That's actually quite significant, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't know though, because I think them saying that sort of confirms that there's going to be no extra tracks, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's literally what I was thinking. I was going to say, have they confirmed any new tracks or any classic tracks like they did before? Like, you know, they have Brands Hatch, Estoril, places.
I've got the thing here. It says F1 2017 will also include 4 alternative track layouts from the existing circuits. So yeah,
so Silverstone, I reckon.
I guess it'll be the old Silver. Like that. That's good, because in 2013, I think when you went back to classic cars, like, you had to race it on the new Silverstone layout, which was like, well, these cars never actually raced on there.
I blooming loved the old Silverstone layout. I really did.
It was good, awesome, really good flow to it as well, which I think is good for the classic cars. Didn't really suit the new layout at all.
No.
So yeah, hopefully that is one of them involved. I can't really think of anything else that'd be in the game.
No, it's gonna. I suppose it's gonna be interesting to see if they introduce anything like similar to scenario mode, not that game mode specifically, because
let's be honest,
challenges, something along those lines. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. It's difficult to predict, really, because Codemasters could surprise us, or they could just go very generic and go back to scenario mode or something like that again. But we'll have to wait and see. But I suppose that's all we can really say, obviously, on the F1 game at the moment. I mean, I suppose we can get onto the real-life F1, because...
Yeah.
I mean, recently, because I work every Sunday from 1 until 10, I've had to watch the highlights for like the last 4 or 5 races now, so I haven't really been able to follow it too closely, F1, unfortunately. But I suppose talking about the last race in Canada, from what I saw of the highlights, a very, very decent race.
Yeah, it was. I watched it live, so it was one of those races. I think it's a good race when you can't keep track of who's in what position, especially like in the back end of the top 10, because there was so much battling up at the front. And obviously you had the Ferrari. The Ferrari sort of coming through the field when they pitted pretty early, and obviously Vettel had the damage. You sort of couldn't. You were like, oh wait, like Stroll is battling for P8, P9, and whatever, and then all of a sudden you've got Grosjean. I didn't even know he'd finished in the points until the day after.
No, oh, you know what? I didn't realise that even. So I watched Ted's notebook this morning. I watched the race yesterday morning on Monday. This morning, Tuesday, I watched Ted's notebook, and he said, "Oh, Grosjean had a bit of a weird race. He finished P10." I was like, "What? How did that happen?" I thought he was going to say Magnussen finished P10, but no. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a funny season so far. You've had really, really good races in Canada. Spain was pretty enjoyable.
Spain was good. Spain definitely exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, especially for that track doesn't tend to produce good racing, but it seems to be good with these new sort of breed of cars, especially like the fast flowing turns. Obviously we saw that in China as well,
and Bahrain you could say as well.
Bahrain just tends to be really, really good for these the new breed of cars from 2014 onwards as well. So yeah, 4 out of 7 good races. Like
I'd say Monaco was I don't know. I mean, to be honest,
for Monaco it was all right.
I only watched the highlights, so for me, I only got to see the best bits. So that's probably why I'm rating it quite high. But probably wasn't that great, was it? Really?
No. It's a funny one, Monaco, because like when can you really recall a good Monaco Grand Prix, which you think, God, there was a lot of overtaking in that one.
Yeah, it's just
never.
No,
it's just not the sort of thing that we're going to get ever, unless we completely go back to like classic cars.
I mean, to be fair, this year in Monaco, from what I can remember, there was quite a few crashes in that one. I mean, we have Van Dorn crashing.
Ericsson
crashed, did he?
Yeah, it was under the safety car. He just went straight on into turn 1.
Bloody hell, they cut that out of the highlights. I never even knew that happened. I never knew that until today. Oh, I'll tell you what, that's what I was wondering. Wait, Ericsson's retired. When did that happen?
That was like one of the main things that happened.
Fucking why?
He was just under the safety car and he just ploughed straight into the barriers. I think I'm right.
I can't bloody believe that. Oh my god. I mean, obviously I saw Button and Bearline's crash, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, the thing with Monaco with these new cars, I guess they're just more difficult to handle. So you're going to tend to get those sort of crashes, and because they're so difficult to handle. So yeah, I guess that's one good thing about Monaco with these cars.
This is why I think Baku could be call me mad. This is why I think it could be one of the best races of the season. I think it could be a classic because the 2017 cars are a lot trickier to handle, and it's kind of separating the men from the boys. We're going to see a lot of mistakes happening because I think everyone last year was just a bit cautious, and everyone last year was just almost just a bit too good in a way.
Apart from Hamilton, who really
he had a terrible weekend.
Yeah, but I think he's already had that sort of week. He had that weekend in
Russia.
Yeah, where he just sort of couldn't get anything right at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It could go one of two ways. It could be a Russia, obviously 90-degree corners. Didn't tend to be suited to Russia, but obviously you've got the long straight, and this year we're not tending to see as many DRS overtakes. So I think it's going to be more difficult for cars to pass on that long straight, which could mean we could get a few good battles.
Yeah.
Rather than just cars breezing past, we might actually get some side by side.
That's what we got last year. Which was just a bit crap, really.
It was too. Like I didn't watch the race last year. I was at work.
Oh, good.
Lucky
you.
Lucky you. So I watched lap 1, I think, and then was like, right, let's just skip through it. I've heard it's awful. So yeah, I just didn't watch the race. So I didn't really know what to expect from it. So yeah, hopefully the slipstream isn't too OP and we can actually see some good battles. Or like we got in Canada where there was a tailwind down the DRS straight.
Was there?
That
Oh yeah, did that out of the highlights as well when they mentioned that.
Yeah, I only heard this through Twitter because I literally just turned on and the race was on. But apparently, yeah, there was like a tailwind coming down the DRS straight, which meant that sort of the slipstream was a little bit more overpowered compared to usual.
Yeah.
Which obviously made for a little bit better overtaking. Actually,
exactly.
So.
I can't really complain about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
so I don't know. Yeah, it's been a funny season. We've had 3 very mediocre races and then 4 pretty good ones.
Yeah, we haven't had any classics yet, have we? That's why I think Baku will be the first classic we have of this season.
That is a big call.
But I suppose, I know we'd made a few predictions before the F1 2017 season got underway, and to be fair, a lot of what I was saying, certainly, I think a lot of what you were saying, I think we're kind of being spot on about a lot of things.
I think we are,
the main part being Force India, being the surprise package. I mean, incredibly, they could have got a podium on Sunday.
They just do it every season.
Every single season. I don't know. Regardless of what drivers they use, they are just utterly insane.
Yeah,
pretty much.
They've just stepped it up this season. I mean, Williams have gone down the pan almost.
Yeah, that's mainly because of Lance Stroll though. But Lance Stroll kind of is letting them down a bit.
I don't know. I just don't think the car, from what we've seen, I don't think the Williams car is really easy to handle.
They're average at best.
Massa is just sort of been very average. You know, he's just sort of put his car into P7 or whatever. But you know, even the last few races, Force India have been outdoing Massa in qualifying, and then tend to be staying ahead of him in the race as well. So
I think even Toro Rosso was
Toro Rosso were ahead of him in the constructors,
and even Renault began to catch up with them in the constructors as well. With,
you mean Nico Hulkenberg?
Yeah, Nico Hulkenberg. Sorry, not Julian Palmer. In fact, that's another thing. Robert Kubica did a few laps around. I think it was Jerez last week, and it's got me thinking because Kubica is only 32 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And you got Raikkonen, who's currently 38. Surely, Robert, if he feels fit enough, he can come back and race 4 or 5 seasons at Renault. Yeah. Surely, I mean, it's not totally out of the question. I mean, it may have seemed impossible a couple of years ago, but you know, it seemed like he got on okay, and actually his lap times were supposedly quicker than Sorokin's.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows you that maybe Robert's due a return. I'd love to see that.
I would also love to see that. I mean, there's some questions as to whether he'd be able to handle the cars around Monaco. And those sort of circuits, but I don't think that's going to be a massive issue. You know, even if he just has to miss Monaco, as a result of that, I don't think that's going to be a big issue because a lot of the tracks now are obviously the Tilke circuits are open circuits, tend to be more sweeping turns than compared to the very tight turns in Monaco.
Yeah,
you know, I think it very much suits Kubica in that sense. Really, really good to see him, you know, do the test and actually be on the pace straight away. You know, first time I think he's been in obviously first time he's been in an F1 car since 2010, I think.
That's incredible.
So that's, you know, to have stepped up to the mark, you know, that quickly is pretty incredible. I'd love to see him back for 2018. Or
maybe even earlier, maybe after the summer break in place of Palmer. But
yeah, I don't think it's going to come that soon, just because he hasn't. I think it was the 2012 car he drove.
Probably, yeah.
I think it was either the 2012 or the 2013. So, you know, if they're impressed enough with him, I think they might give him a test driver role. If they're thinking of putting him into the seat next year, I think they'll give him a test driver role and maybe give him a couple of free practice sessions before the end of the season. I think that'll be a telltale sign that they're definitely considering him for 2018, because I think he just needs that a little bit of testing in the sort of race weekend environment once again, because he's been away for so long.
Yeah, and I suppose another interesting talk. I mentioned Kimi Räikkönen when mentioning his age of 38, saying he was 5 years older than Kubica. Well, not quite 5 years, 6 years actually. Maths. But no, Kimi Räikkönen once again in Monaco, he performed very well, got pole position. He got swaps around and finished P2. He is obviously playing that number 2 driver role at the moment at Ferrari. And then in Canada, he just didn't really seem to perform, and it just asks the question once again: are Ferrari going to replace Raikkonen this year? Will he step up? Because Raikkonen's had a very I would say a solid enough season, but again, the inconsistency is beginning to step in, and I kind of just want Ferrari not to cut their losses, because Raikkonen's not a bad driver, but I just want them just to go with someone younger, someone like, you know, you got Carlos Sainz, who's waiting in the wings perhaps for a top drive. You got Sergio Perez, maybe Romain Grosjean. I mean, Grosjean's 31. I didn't realise he was quite that old, actually, Grosjean.
Yeah.
Perez, I think, something like 28, and Sainz is 22. So they've got 3 reasonable options there to choose from, and I just want someone else to be in that Ferrari seat, just someone else fighting up the top.
Yeah, it was a very Raikkonen weekend in Canada, sort of very forgettable. And if they're going to replace him, I think this is a sort of season where they're going to do so, because obviously for the first time in quite a few years, they're actually competing for a Constructors' Championship, and if Raikkonen's lost points contribute to them not winning the Constructors' Championship,
yeah, that's going to be huge. I'll tell you what, that's a good point.
That could be the sort of thing that makes them think, okay, right, yes, we do want a number 2 driver to Vettel, but we want someone as a rear gunner who can fend off the Mercedes or whoever's going to be competing against us, and possibly someone like a Sainz or a Grosjean or a Perez.
You know what? I think, what though? With those 3 drivers, I don't think they'll settle for number 2.
Especially Perez after the weekend. I don't think he's going to be happy to do that.
They won't settle for number 2. None of those 3. I feel the thing with Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas, I think would have been okay settling with number 2.
Yeah.
But Grosjean, with his experience now at the age of 31, nowhere would he settle being number 2. Perez, obviously, as we've seen on the weekend, doesn't really want to, you know, let his teammate through, and I don't think he'll want to really favour Vettel either or play second fiddle to the German. But certainly with Carlos Sainz as well, I
could see that one more than any of them.
I don't know. I'm still not sure, because the way he's reacted after Verstappen got chosen for Red Bull over him, it just sort of tells me that, I'm not saying he has an attitude problem as such, but I just don't think he'd be willing to. I don't think he's such a team player. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
Yeah, the only thing with Sainz is, if that's going to be his only opportunity to get a top drive,
yeah, he's got to take it, really.
Then he's got to. Because I don't think he's going to, unless Ricciardo at the end of this season wants to leave Red Bull.
But again,
possibly Mercedes or something like that.
But that'll create conflicts again, because obviously from 2014, you could argue the reason Vettel left Red Bull is because Ricciardo was outpacing him.
Yeah,
and with Ricciardo joining that team, it does cause, you know, sort of a clash between the 2 drivers. They're kind of sort of equally skilled, you could argue. So they'd be literally fighting against, they'd be racing each other like Hamilton and Rosberg were.
Yeah.
So you could maybe see that going to tatters, but you know what? I'd love to see that Ricciardo and Vettel matching up again after a few years.
Yeah.
And then Sainz goes to Red Bull alongside Verstappen. And I tell you what, in a competitive car for Red Bull maybe in 2018, Sainz versus Verstappen, that'll be really tasty, I'm telling you.
It would, yeah. I think the problem this season and the past few seasons is there's been so few competitive cars week in, week out. I mean, this season is the first time since 2013 that we've actually seen 2 different constructors go at it week after week.
Even 2013, it was Red Bull, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was only really the first half of that season. So it's been many years since we've seen a lot of different teams, you know, going at it weekend after weekend, which means that, you know, all these drivers that we've got Hamilton, we've got Vettel, Alonso, Ricciardo, you know, the ones that we've mentioned, Perez, Sainz, all these drivers want to be number 1 drivers at a big team. And I mean, this season there's only room for 2, really. You know, we've got Hamilton and we've got Vettel. Those are the 2 number 1 drivers that are going for the title. You know, Ricciardo, season after season, has been waiting for a car to come to him that's good enough to win a world championship, and he hasn't got that. Alonso has been waiting for many years to get a car that's going to be winning a world championship, and it's not looking as if it's going to happen. You know, Hamilton is the only driver who you can really say has had a world championship winning car, you know, pretty much every season in F1, and Vettel being the other one, and they're the ones that are in the position at the moment, so it's difficult to see any other drivers really getting in that position.
No, it is tough, and I think Certainly with McLaren, I mean, obviously we predicted at the start of the season. I didn't have my predictions for McLaren as quite high. I mean, I thought they'd struggled this year, like in terms of the Constructors' Championship, their finishing position. I literally didn't think they'd get above really 9th or 8th, and at the moment that's proving correct. I mean, 9 points after 7 races is quite astonishing, astonishing, and I think it's just a matter of when rather than if they're gonna get that divorce of Honda, because it's just not working. And to be honest, as Ted mentioned on his notebook, is that McLaren are just sort of losing popularity, losing exposure. They're looking less attractive to potential title sponsors.
Yeah,
they are losing so much money as well in that, and they just need to cut their losses. They really do, and just let Honda do their thing with Sauber.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, you know what? With Sauber, freaking heck, they are going to be the joke of the F1 grid next year. That will be quite. Well, that'll be pretty hilarious, but we'll have to wait and see what happens to that. But McLaren will obviously try and go for that Mercedes engine that is obviously now vacant from the recently deceased Man of Mercedes team. But yeah, McLaren, I think if McLaren get a Mercedes engine, they will be kind of in a similar position, I would say. Maybe
Force
to what?
India?
Yeah, maybe but sort of between Red Bull and Force India, I'd say. So in that case, I think Alonso will probably stay if they go with Mercedes. If not, well, actually, one other thing I thought of, what I was going to finish actually with Alonso is that I don't really see him going elsewhere next season because there's not really another seat open at the moment. Maybe Renault will have to see. One thing I want to talk about is Stoffel Van Dorn. He's coming for a lot of criticism this year. He's been knocked out in Q1 in the vast majority of races, or vast majority of qualifying sessions this season, and he hasn't been on the pace of Fernando Alonso, which is understandable. But he's made a lot of mistakes. He hasn't really been performing that well in the races. I mean, not yesterday. In Canada, he finished 15th, I believe, only ahead of Wehrlein, who did multiple pit stops. And he finished behind the Sauber of Ericsson. It's just, you see in the past in McLaren, they've not been patient with their young drivers. They've got rid of Perez. They got rid of Magnussen after very sort of average seasons. And Van Dorn at the moment, I know it's the car as well, but Van Dorn's had a pretty poor season, a below average season. And you've got to think that Van Dorn could be in trouble if he doesn't pick himself up soon.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if there's any season for Van Dorn to come in, then it's a season like this one. A little bit like the season that Ricciardo came into Red Bull. You know, it was the first season where they'd sort of dropped off the pace, and the pressure was completely off Ricciardo. You know, no one really expected him to be fighting with Vettel, but because the pressure was off, it really gave him that opportunity to get up with Vettel. And I think that opportunity was really the same with Van Dorn this season. You know, McLaren, even slower than last season. You know, you're thinking, Alonso is just going to not be bothered, and it really sort of, you would have thought, motivated Van Dorn to think, right, okay, I can get on the pace with him, pretty early on, and there's going to be really no pressure on me. But he's just really, really struggled. Like you say, he's knocked out in Q1 more often than not, when Alonso's even managing to drag it into Q3 at times. So yeah, it's a strange one, and McLaren, as you said, don't tend to be too patient with the young drivers. They've got a long list of drivers as well, ready to take that seat.
I don't know about that because I think the only slight consolation for Van Dorn, I don't know who's like next in the pipeline then for McLaren, because I'm not aware of anyone.
I think they've got quite a few drivers in GP2 and GP3. Nick De Vries is the one that sort of springs to mind.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. No.
It's difficult though, because obviously Van Dorn completely dominated GP2 as was.
Yeah, and and Jolyon Palmer even won GP2. It sort of proves that the step up to Formula 1 is a lot bigger nowadays than it once was when the likes of Hamilton and Rosberg joined and people like that. It's really tough for Van Dorn. I think for Van Dorn and even Lance Stroll, this is a very difficult year to sort of join and 100%. Sort of be competitive, because these cars are harder than any other that we've ever had really in history. So, well, not in history, but certainly in recent times. Yeah,
especially when you've got Van Dorn going up against Alonso, who Alonso has driven the sort of previous era of Formula 1 cars, like the V10s, like the 2004 cars, which were obviously the quickest of all time. Massa also driven those cars.
Yeah.
You know, coming up against drivers who have never even driven a Formula 1 car before. Whereas, you know, the likes of, you could say Verstappen, you know, he came into the sport in 2015 when obviously the cars weren't as physically demanding, but it's sort of given him more of a transition sort of step up. You know, the same with the likes of Sainz. And then obviously when Lewis Hamilton came into the sport, there was a hell of a lot more testing. You know, so he could sort of, you know, get up to speed with Alonso a lot quicker because he was, you know, testing the car so much before the season, whereas Van Dorn in pre-season had basically no running because obviously the car was so bad anyway. So, you know, he's come straight into it in Melbourne, limited testing, physically demanding cars, and, you know, I think he's just been on the back foot from the get-go, and, you know, now the pressure's starting to build on him.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. By the way, my camera's just run out of battery, so you're going to have to put my logo there at about 50 minutes into the video, so that's marvellous. But no, like you said, it's just going to be... It's tough for these rookies, and it'll be interesting to see, really, if Williams and McLaren sort of persevere with the likes of Van Dorn and Stroll, whether they will go for somebody else. I mean, certainly this year's driver transfer market, we say it every year, but I think particularly this year with a lot of drivers underperforming, it will be interesting to see who gets the kick and also who comes in as well, because, you know, you've got a lot of decent young drivers in GP2, not too many standouts, but a lot of the standouts at the moment, like Charles Leclerc, he's already tied up with Ferrari and sort of Haas, so he's kind of taken by one of those teams. And I suppose going on to Haas this season, they've just sort of like they've been very anonymous this year, I must admit.
I think I mentioned this at the start of the season as
Grosjean and Magnussen have been level, I'd say. I mean, also that, but they've been very equal. I mean, I think they're drawing the qualifying battle, drawing the race battle as well. I think Magnussen is... I'm not sure if he's ahead in the championship. I could just have a quick look.
I'm not sure.
But I think he was at a point, but I'm not sure if he is anymore. I'm just checking right now. F1 standings. Magnussen is... Oh, actually,
just
5 points behind. So... yeah, they've been very even this season, and I suppose that with Haas for next season, it's going to be harsh to drop... I don't think they'll drop Grosjean. I don't think they'll drop Magnussen either at his current rate. Magnussen, he did have a very poor weekend last time out in Canada, but whenever Magnussen has a bad weekend, he always bounces back in the next one, which is strange, which has been a theme of this season I've seen with the Haas F1 drivers. One of them has a good weekend, and the other has a really terrible weekend. So they've just ended up sort of being on a level playing field throughout the whole season so far. So, if I'm being honest, I don't necessarily see any changes going on there, unless Ferrari kind of force Charles Leclerc into an F1 seat.
I mean, if they give them enough money, then they'll do that.
Yeah. But no, other than that, I suppose you look at Sauber at the moment. You've got Pascal Wehrlein did score his first points of the season in Spain. What a drive. I mean, bloody hell, that was incredible. Yeah. Even though he was helped up by the virtual safety car, it's still don't take anything away from him. To get that dog of a car into a point is bloody incredible.
Very good drive from him. Apart from that, Lance Stroll, I hope Williams persevere with him.
Yeah,
he's 18 at the end of the day.
I don't see who else they go for though, because they don't really have any links of any other drivers. I mean, I know we were saying this time last year, we were expecting Felipe Massa to be dropped, and we were like, well, who did Williams have in the pipeline? And then we obviously identified Lance Stroll, who was dominating Formula 3. And, you know, Lance Stroll, I've actually got to admit, in Canada, I saw a real sign of maturity of him, because when he was battling cars, I was expecting him to be making mistakes, locking up, going wide, hitting his front wing off, but actually he was very calm and collective with, I think it was with Magnussen, Hulkenberg and Vettel.
Yeah.
Very calm, very composed, kind of kept his front wing out of any sort of damages, and actually drove really well, and I think he thoroughly deserved the points, and hopefully this is kind of the start of maybe just some sort of improvement, and hopefully less criticism, but I think it'll take a while to get rid of that completely, but he's did very well.
You could see, I think, throughout the race, you could sort of see him get more confidence, because obviously he hasn't really, been in any sort of battles for points even. So at the start of the race, I think he was very tentative to sort of, start making moves. You could see like he was creeping up the inside, and then he'd sort of, go back to the racing line, you think, no, I'm not going to go for that. What if I crash? But then, as the race went on, he was going for moves, and he was making some nice overtakes. So, like you say, hopefully this is the start of something, and the start of him getting a bit of confidence. The final thing I just wanted to mention in terms of the Drivers' Championship, and probably the final thing that we'll cover, is Sergio Perez is 1 point behind Max Verstappen.
I did notice that, and to be honest, I would say Perez is another driver who's gone onto the radar because he's consistently been there in the points along with his teammate Esteban Ocon.
Yeah.
But Perez, once again, very, very solid, and like before, it does raise the question: does he deserve another top drive? Will he be able to perform at a team like Ferrari potentially? I'm not sure if they would go with Perez. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but I honestly think Perez might just be best staying at Force India because Force India are proving year on year that they're remaining competitive and they're still scoring these points.
I mean, the only places Perez can go and be any better are Red Bull. You're not going to go there, and then apart from that, it's Mercedes or Ferrari. At the moment, those are the only 3 teams that are more competitive than Force India week in, week out. So yeah, what did you make of Perez and Ocon?
To be honest, the trouble is you see a lot of drivers doing this. You've seen Lewis Hamilton do it countless times. You've seen, I think Valtteri Bottas has done it at Williams. I think Felipe Massa did the same as well. You've seen the 2 Saubers from last year, Nasser and Ericsson. They've done the same as well. I'm pretty sure Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen have done something like that. It's a theme throughout the whole F1 grid. Every driver tends to do it. There are very few that, especially in the heat of the moment when they really are sort of on it, they don't want to be giving away anything. So
especially to their team, mate.
Exactly. I don't blame Perez. And to be fair, I think Ocon took it very well. So, that's good from him because a lot of drivers would have kind of moaned about it and created, sort of a rivalry out of completely nothing, really. So I think for Ocon to take it like a man, very good. Perez maybe should have moved over, but I still think despite that, I still very much doubt Ocon would be able to get Ricciardo for the podium. So I don't think it would have made such a difference. I think the Ferraris had too much pace anyway, Sebastian Vettel. So
the thing was, I think the chance was there. When Vettel and Raikkonen and whatever, when they were a long way back, that was the chance for them. When they first mentioned it on the radio, that was the chance. What they needed was, an authoritative member of the team to come over and say, look, you're going to move over now. We're going to give Ocon 5 laps to get past. Because in that time, Ferraris weren't going to be closing up on them. So say, look, we'll give Ocon 3 laps or 5 laps to get past. If he can't, we'll switch back again, and we'll try and defend for the rest of the race. But it is so difficult, especially for the Perez, in the sense that if he moves over, all of a sudden he's lost a second and he's vulnerable all of it straight away to the likes of Ferrari. And it is very easy to say after the race, they wouldn't have been any worse off if they'd have changed, but you don't know that at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think Ocon should definitely take a lot from that though. Because he's challenged for a podium, and all of a sudden he can say, he's almost got one over on Perez without even finishing ahead of him. You can sort of say, well, remember that time when he didn't move over for me. He's almost got the moral high ground in that sense at the moment. So yeah, hopefully he really takes that sort of confidence going into the next weekend, because I'd love to see him score some more good points and maybe even get a podium soon.
I seriously think that Esteban Ocon is an early contender for driver of the season, because even though he hasn't got that many points, he's been consistently there in Q3. Well, not Q3 every race, but he's been in the points, and he's just done a solid job every time. And considering this is his first full season, albeit a few races at Manor last year, he's done a very solid job indeed. And with Ocon continuing to sort of up his take, I mean, don't forget, he still has ties with Mercedes. So I mean, again, I suppose another talking point for another day is, will Mercedes stick with Bottas, or will they go with someone a bit more established, I suppose you could say, or someone a bit more, I don't really want to say skilled because that's a bit harsh on Bottas, but just sort of a driver sort of like Alonso, Vettel, that sort of driver, that sort of quality, someone like that. But no, I suppose that's about it for all the real life F1 discussion. I suppose we spoke about quite a lot today, the F1 game, the real life F1. we've made this podcast about an hour. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to discuss, because I know after every podcast I always like, oh, freaking hell, I forgot to mention that. But I think this time I've mentioned about everything. I'm just going to sort of touch on what I kind of said at the start with the whole YouTube situation. For me at the moment, I don't think I'm going to be uploading for quite some time. I'm not quitting. I'm not really taking a break either. I'm not treating this as a break at all, because I simply, at the moment, just don't want to upload anything. I think the Freddy Gray series, unfortunately, that's just going to kind of just have to be delayed at the moment until I sort of find some motivation, really, or some passion to kind of continue that series on. But in terms of F1 2017, as I mentioned before, I want to try and just play the game first, and maybe sort of branch my channel out to funny moment videos, and hopefully the F1 2017 game will allow me to do that, because I'm more than willing to still upload GTA on my second channel. That's a game that I'd love playing, love editing, you know, love editing, recording, things like that. And I want to try and implement that into F1, because I just don't get the same buzz editing a career mode video, because it's always the same thing with cinematics, graphics, you know, replays, things like that. And I just want something a bit different. I don't think I'll ever get bored of funny moments videos, because there's always, you know, bits you can laugh at whilst editing and just have so much fun with the editing. And I think that's where I really want to take my channel. And yeah, I suppose that's really about it.
Yeah. I think that just about caps it off. Myself, the channel, I think I'll just see how it goes, to be honest. I mean, Ultimate Career, I haven't uploaded that for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the hype has sort of died down with that now. I mean, I'm obviously going to finish the season. I have an idea of how I'm going to finish the season. And yeah, apart from that, it's just mod career, a few challenge videos, and I don't know. It's sort of, we've got to plug the gap for 2 months before F1 2017 comes out. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, like you say, the funny moments, those sort of things are always good to edit and whatnot. But yeah, thanks once again, Matt, for being on the podcast. It's been another good talk.
No, absolutely no problem at all. I think it's been a good podcast. I think we discussed a lot of really, really good points about real life F1 and hopefully the game as well. Hopefully we'll actually get some proper news to sort of digest in the next podcast. Potentially we might bring on a guest for that one. Maybe Tom97HD, if you're watching. Good, come on. We'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. But no, good podcast. Love being on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, if you are still around at this stage, do leave a like down below and also comment your thoughts on what we have to say. But until the next podcast, we'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.